Welcome in, guys. This is the Locker Room Talk podcast. It is our first podcast ever, and we are here to present you guys with another perspective on Miami sports. We're excited to be here. We've been talking about doing a podcast for a while, and we finally decided to do it. It's no better time than after the draft with nothing else to do and nothing else to look forward to. So we are here to talk about everything Miami sports, whether it's Dolphins, whether it's Heat, whether it's Miami FC now, whether it's unfortunately the Marlins or the Panthers, Hurricanes, anything Miami sports, we look at the entire sports world through a Miami lens. So my name is Zach, and I have Edwin here with me. We are two diehard Miami Dolphins fans. I live in South Florida. Edwin does not. Edwin lives in New York and still holds on to his Miami Dolphins fandom, so we're happy about that. But the draft has just passed, like I mentioned, and we have a lot of new players on the team, a lot of new talent. And so let's get right into it. All right, so here we have the list of Dolphins draft picks, a lot of new guys, a lot of potential there. Evan, what did you see in the draft picks that the Dolphins took the last couple of days?
Well, the big obvious is that guy at the top. His name is Tua Tagovailoa, not like the commissioner who messed that up. He only had weeks to practice. So with that, obviously we get our franchise quarterback, and we see our future growing. Like, even if we don't know when he's going to play, we know that at some point we're going to have our quarterback on the field, and it's going to be.
Do you think it was worth the risk taking him at 5?
Everyone thought that I feel like there's a risk with anyone that you take. I mean, Justin Herbert, they've showed countless times that he technically missed more games than Tua during his college career. And Tua, he came in as a freshman. Yes, he came in at halftime, but he took the team to a championship, and he played at a different level. He's a left-handed quarterback who shows great vision for the field, and he's able to just pretty much do whatever he wants with people's defenses. And I can't wait to see what he's going to be able to do with the Dolphins and all these offensive tackles that we took, and building a wall to protect him so we don't have to worry about possibly him getting re-injured. So hopefully he remains untouched with our brick wall that we're building.
Yep. And I've seen a lot of reports on the medical side of Tua and drafting him, and a lot of the doctors that worked on him, a lot of the doctors that took a look at him after the surgeries, they all said the damaged hip looks just as good as the other hip. It looks stronger than they would have expected, and they see it very low probability of it becoming a problem anytime in the future. So I agree. If you have a chance to take a franchise quarterback, you go after him and you get your guy. And Dolphins didn't have to trade up to go get him. He was sitting there at 5, like they hoped he would be, and now we have our quarterback.
Because of all of our smoke screens that we threw up. But one of the big things that I kept throwing at everybody, that whether it was Twitter, just people that I'm talking to, if you had Drew Brees, how we had the chance to have him, and he had his shoulder injury that they said his career was pretty much should have been over because that it was completely wrecked. And we ended up taking Dante Culpepper, who I think played 4 games for us. That turned into probably one of the worst decisions in Dolphins history. And it's just like, we couldn't make that kind of mistake again. So we had, whether it turns out to blow up, there's a higher probability that he performs at a great level because of what the doctors have said, that he's recovered better than a lot of patients that they've seen, and that he should be able to remain at the level that he played at when he was at Alabama.
And that's the hope. And then obviously the Dolphins are not in win now mode right now. So even if he has to sit half a season, a whole season, it's not as if the Dolphins coaching staff has to shove him into the starting lineup and hope to get some W's along the way. We're in a perfect position to, grow, and we don't need to push him out there too early. And a lot of these other picks show that as well. A lot of these other guys are not finished products. They're all high potential guys. They weren't stars in college, but they have room to grow. And that's a common thread you see in a lot of the draft picks that the Dolphins have had.
And that's another thing that, I mean, for me, I was like, please, Tua, start playing right now. I want to win right now. But that's another thing where he gets to develop, even if it's behind Ryan Fitzpatrick. He is a veteran. He's been in the league for over, I'd say, 15 years, I want to guess. but he knows how to win. He knows what he's doing. He took a Dolphins team that was 0-7 or 0-8 last year and started them just beating on teams. He beat the Eagles. He beat all teams that were going to the playoffs at that. So to think that
Yeah.
Tua can't come in and make a difference when Ryan Fitzpatrick, with the team that we had last year, pulled out 5 wins, it's crazy to think that we're not able to become a playoff team instantly once all these players come in and find their own with this offense or defense at that.
And people forget Dan Marino is still very involved in the Dolphins organization. He'll be at the practices. He'll be in the coaches' meetings from time to time. I'm sure he will have plenty of time to coach up Tua, impart some of his wisdom, and work with them on the mechanics or whatever else it is to help Tua navigate through being an NFL quarterback. So that's always positive. But like you mentioned, there's a lot of other picks here that were spent on the offensive line. Obviously, the offensive line was a huge issue last year. And when you draft, 2 tackles and at least another guard that could fight for a starting position, that's 3 to 5 starters right there potentially. And then you signed 2 more in free agency. So we may have a complete rebuild, 5 new starters on the offensive line this year, depending on how the rookies play. What do you think about that approach, taking a lot of offensive linemen in the draft?
I mean, I feel like there's never enough of an offensive line to where you can't pick and move people that you think can perform better in different spots. And with Austin Jackson, they're saying that his weakness is strength. With an offensive line, that's kind of a big thing that you need. But there's room to grow. We don't need to win right now. Next year, we have how many? We got another 3 first-round picks or something like that from other teams that also messed up. Houston, Texans sending us more picks, or like it's
thanks,
just
Houston.
it's it's insane that we pick so much and we're able to mold them to how we want to be able to protect Tua, and that's what's good about Tua not having to play right now is that they can go into the game and get used to this NFL level before bringing him in and just throwing him to the wolves like they're doing. I mean, Joe Burrow might come out and perform right away, but at the same time, there's some quarterbacks where you throw them in there and they're like, these guys are way faster than they were in college, and they hit a lot harder. And I'm just getting thrown into this team who was 2-14 last year, and now you expect me to just turn it around with. So I like that we took a lot.
Their career in the long run.
Yeah,
it could
exactly.
Harm their career.
Exactly. Yep. So I like that we took a lot of offensive linemen, and just you never know who you find. You can all these rounds. I mean, they say that these are top offensive linemen in the first rounds, but some of them fail and they don't end up performing to the levels that they say. So the fact that we went through different rounds and went through different colleges and made sure that we had our people from even little colleges, big colleges, it didn't matter, that we wanted to fill these teams or this team with talent.
What happened to Do Not Disturb?
Apparently, Do Not Disturb on my iPhone is saying it doesn't matter. I'm still gonna Jesus Christ, but.
But to your point, they do say that Austin Jackson's biggest weakness is the strength. Obviously, offensive linemen need to be strong, but that doesn't seem like a biggest issue for me. He's technically sound. He's quick on his feet for a lineman. I think that once you get the strength on, obviously he has a frame that can support more weight. Once you get him a little bit stronger this year, I don't think there's anything stopping this kid from being a beast because he looks good. And once he puts a little bit more weight and strength into it, then I think that he'll be great.
Definitely.
What did you think about the defensive backs the Dolphins took? Noah Igbinoghene.
I was just about to say I can't even say his name, but from what I've seen, I didn't watch a lot of Auburn college because I'm a Miami Hurricane fan, but I've seen that he is a quick corner and that he is able to cut off different types of receivers, no matter height, speed. He was able to keep up with the best of them. And they just say that he was supposed to be one of the top, but he was slipping because he's obviously not one of the big time names like all the others. But we had many options with this, and I like the pick after seeing his highlights. And Brandon Jones, the same thing. I saw him, and I've seen his he's been talking about he's excited to come to Miami. So I'm glad that these prospects that we picked were excited to come to Miami and grow and take over this team and make sure that we're ready to go to the next level with Tua at the head of this.
Yeah, and just like Austin Jackson, Noah is another guy that's not a polished product. I think the reason he slipped in the draft was because a lot of people think that um, he wasn't on top of the college game as far as cornerback is concerned. There was a lot of room to grow, a lot of things to polish. The guy was playing receiver 2 years ago, so there's a lot of room to grow. But at the same time, a lot of people thought that he would be gone way before 30. There were, 6 or 7 corners taken in the top 40 picks. A lot of people thought he would be number 3 or 4. And seeing some of the other names that went off the board before him, I think the Dolphins were surprised that he was still available. And from everything I've read, they loved him. They showed up to the Auburn, I think it was a pro day. It might have been the pro day or at the combine, and they worked with the Auburn guys. And they apparently spent a lot of time with Noah, and they think that he fits this defense. And once you get a little bit more polish on him, they think that he can be a shutdown corner in this league. And obviously, there's no pressure to do it right now because they have Xavier Howard and Byron Jones on the outsides already. So
exactly, he gets thrown into that mix with already Pro Bowl talent, and when they're all healthy, this defense is gonna be scary. And even if I can't pronounce his name, I'm gonna be like, let's go.
Let's go, Noah. That's it. That's all I gotta say. Let's go, Noah.
That's what he should put on the back of his jersey, because no one's gonna be able to say what it is. They might not even fit.
And Brandon Jones, another guy that needs some polishing. Obviously, he's a third-round pick. Nothing is expected of him immediately right away. But he, in college, looking through his highlights and looking through what his coaches said, he seems to be a Swiss Army knife. He can do a little bit of everything. He's all over the field. A lot of his highlights are up around the line of scrimmage, just like Rashad Jones. He's great against the run, but he's also good at being that center field safety that can just be out there, catching everything that goes deep. So I'm excited for him. Obviously, he doesn't have to play very often because there's so many other defensive backs the Dolphins can throw out there. But it's awesome to have someone so versatile out there.
Exactly. And so with these, I forgot to mention these guys, Robert Hunt and Solomon Kinley. I mean, we already talked about the offensive line, but those guys are going to be literally sumo wrestlers on our wall.
Those guys are big.
They are huge. And they just manhandled whoever came at them. And we didn't have any kind of guys. We didn't have any kind of run game last year, but if we can build a wall, they've said that it doesn't matter who's in the back. If you can have an offensive line, you will get those yards. And now with the addition of Matt Breida and Jordan Howard this year, I mean, they're not big names, but they should be able to rally up some big yards with these big dudes.
Now that you bring it up, obviously we didn't draft either one of those, but we definitely used one of our draft picks to get Breida. I think that those two form a great thunder and lightning duo. Breida is one of the fastest running backs out there. He does have a history of being injured, but when he's healthy, he is lightning in a bottle. So if you have him out there, and then you have the change of pace back with Jordan Howard, who can also get you some goal line touchdowns and short first downs when needed with the big body, I think that that's a great duo. And then you even have the running backs from last year like Laird and Gaskin that can come in and be that third running back, to spell those guys. So I think the running backs and the offensive line improving are going to pay huge dividends this year for the Dolphins.
Definitely. What do you think about the defensive ends that we got?
So, like a lot of Dolphins fans on Twitter, I've seen that they're super excited about these guys. Raekwon Davis is an absolute monster. A lot of people thought last year that he would be a first-round talent. To get him toward the end of the second round is probably a steal. He is a mountain of a man. He's strong. He's a great run stuffer. And then when you pair him with Strobridge, North Carolina's defensive end, he's another guy that he's not going to get you a ton of sacks, but they are solid at stopping the run. So last year, the Dolphins being one of the worst teams in the league at stopping the run, I think that changes with these guys. They're stronger, they're bigger, they take up a lot of space, and they're good at setting the edge. So I think that our defense is in really good hands with this, not only this coaching staff, but with these draft picks that they've been compiling. And then, Curtis Weaver, what do you think about him? I know he played at Boise State, so we didn't see a lot of him, but he looked like a solid pass rusher in what I've seen the last couple of days.
Yeah, exactly. So from what I've seen him not at a big time college, but he was still able to produce. And apparently, from what I heard, he was supposed to be a higher pick. He was supposed to be like in the top. I forgot what I want to say, like top 3 rounds, but he slipped all the way to the 5th. Yeah, top 3. So the fact that, I mean, there's obviously something that teams saw to have had him that high, and I don't know what made him slip, but if we can harness his skill and talent that they saw that made him want to be, or made him in those top 3 rounds, then we found ourselves a gem. And the same thing you were saying about Raekwon Davis, I watched some of Alabama. Like, I mean, obviously I'm going to watch Alabama because I was looking at Tua back when he was there, but he's a monster. And you could see on Brian Flores' face, he was excited when he drafted him. He was like, let's go, because he's all about defense. So you're getting all these skilled players, and he's gonna harness their talent and make them monsters. And the same with Strowbridge. I'm pretty sure Strowbridge is from Miami, so that's even better.
Yeah, and Curtis Weaver, apparently he was setting sack records at Boise State. I think he had some ungodly number of sacks. But to see him in the 5th round, it seems from what I've read that the combine hurt him. He's not the fastest guy. But when you watch him on tape and you see him get into the quarterback, some guys just have a knack. Zach Thomas wasn't the biggest, wasn't the fastest guy, but he ended up going down as one of the greatest middle linebackers, not only in Dolphins history, but NFL history. And he should be in the Hall of Fame, but that's another story. But Curtis Weaver is another one of those guys that he's not the fastest. He may not be the best on paper as far as a prospect is concerned, but he knows how to get to the quarterback, and he has enough wiggle to do it. So I'm excited to see what the Dolphins can do with him. And he won't be on the field all the time either. He'll be thrown in on pass rush situations. We're not going to count on him doing everything.
Exactly. Yeah, we have plenty of talent everywhere that he can be moved and come in and out whenever we need him.
Yep. And then the surprise of the draft, the Dolphins take the first long snapper in the draft. And I saw somewhere it was the highest long snapper picked ever. So what have you seen on his tape, huh?
I was just like, who is Blake Ferguson? And then I saw him on Twitter, and I was like, I mean, what do I judge here? Like,
yeah, exactly. Welcome to Miami.
I don't really. Look at you snap that. Woo! Like, I don't.
No bad snaps, no fumbles for LSU, I guess.
Yeah, good job.
I'll take it. The next John.
Welcome to Miami and beat it. Yeah, there you go. Welcome to Miami and enjoy the sunny weather while you snap the ball.
And then speaking of Swiss Army knives, I mentioned earlier, what do you think about Malcolm Perry?
Hey, that's Taysom Hill 2.0.
Yeah,
that's all. I saw highlight. This man is fast. I saw him with the ball in his hand at quarterback. I saw him as a running back, a wide receiver. I was just like, hey, we can throw him in. He can. I've seen Baltimore do it with RG3 and Lamar Jackson. I've seen many teams where they've utilize these types of players. And Taysom Hill, like I just said, they throw him in and they don't know what he's going to do. So you got the defense like, is he going to throw? Is he going to run? Is he going to be the receiver? Like, I like it because we have that sense of mystery of what kind of play is going to come when he's on the field.
Yep, agreed. And he's super tiny. It reminds me a little bit of Pat White, but obviously none of the expectations of Pat White because Pat was drafted, I think, the 2nd round. So Malcolm Perry, little gadget guy, you can put him in the slot as a receiver. You can have him as a gadget quarterback like Taysom Hill, like you said. You can put him anywhere on the field and just give him the ball, let him make plays. He's shifty, he's quick, he makes guys miss, and that's a huge advantage to have him. And it sounded to me like the New England Patriots spent a lot of time with him throughout the draft process. And so for the Dolphins to swoop in and take a guy that the Patriots really liked,
that makes it even better.
Take away from
Bill Belichick. Sorry.
Exactly.
We look forward to using him against you.
Just like we used the Wildcat against them
Yep.
first.
Ronnie Brown.
Yep, yep.
I miss those
But
days.
so for those were all the Dolphins draft picks. Um, as far as the rest of the draft, because there are 31 other teams here, we're not going to be able to get to all of them. What were some of the surprises you saw, whether it was a team picking a player or a player being picked by a certain team? What were some of those surprises?
I know probably a lot of people saw the first take episode and Stephen A. Smith going off, but I had to agree with him with Jordan Love being taken. I feel like Green Bay slapped Aaron Rodgers in the mouth with that pick because, as I've heard, for years they have never drafted weapons for Aaron Rodgers, and it just like he just took you to the conference championship, one game away from the Super Bowl, and you feel like, out of all your positions, you feel like you need a quarterback to get you to that next level. Like you need weapons on that side. You need wide receivers. You don't need running backs because you have two who are one just rushed for 20 touchdowns. So you need weapons on the
He picked up
offensive
an
side,
RB3.
and you take a quarterback. Yes, I know that 15 years ago the Packers did the exact same thing with Brett Favre, but Brett Favre was Brett Favre, and he had his weapons. He already had his weapons.
Oh,
He
yeah.
had them already. So there was no need to be like, oh no, you just slapped Brett Favre in the face. No, right now, other than Devontae Adams, you what do you have in Green Bay that it was like, all right, Jordan Love, let's go. Like I feel like he could have gotten later on. There was plenty of quarterback talent to where you could have found his replacement later on in the draft.
Mhm. You know, they must have fallen in love with Love, pardon the pun, but they with their team, how they struggled last year when Devontae Adams got hurt. He had a foot injury, missed a couple games. They didn't have any receivers. They didn't have any big time guys to catch the ball, and there was a ton available in the first round. And so for you to go quarterback in the first round, I'm not against going quarterback. Obviously, you have an older quarterback you want to build for the future, but in that same vein, you have to make sure that your current quarterback is taken care of because he's still getting you deep into the playoffs. They could have easily taken wide receiver in the first round and then gone maybe Jalen Hurts in the second round. Trade up and get your guy. There were several other quarterbacks with a lot of talent. So for them to do this, they must have absolutely fallen in love with Jordan Love. But then they don't go and take any other skill positions the rest of the draft besides running back, who they already have two great ones. So, yeah, they went O-line and then defense. So I'm not sure what the plan is there. If they think that Devontae Adams is now invincible for some reason, or they think that what's his name, Lazard or Lizard, if they think that he can take over as a second wide receiver, I think that they're leaving a lot of things to chance. But as far as my surprise, Jerry Jones got CeeDee Lamb when he should have had no business getting CeeDee Lamb. That guy should have been a top 15 pick. Dallas got him at 17. In my opinion, he should have been the first wide receiver off the board. He is, if you want to compare Jerry Jeudy with, I don't know, who would you compare him with? He's quick. I compare him with Amari Cooper. Jerry Jeudy is a lot like Amari Cooper. Henry Ruggs is a lot like Tyreek Hill. CeeDee Lamb is like DeAndre Hopkins. And I think that a lot more teams could benefit from a DeAndre Hopkins than from an Amari Cooper. I just think that skill set is better. Obviously, Amari Cooper is a solid player on Dallas. But I think that other teams slept on CeeDee Lamb, and Dallas had no other choice. They probably were looking in other directions. But if you have a guy of that talent fall to them, of course they're going to take him. Of course Jerry Jones is going to take him.
Yeah, especially when you have Jerry Jones by himself on what he's in a yacht somewhere. No one's gonna get to him. He's just like,
Yeah.
I have all the power. I'm gonna take what I want. And he took
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb, which I mean, even if you have receivers, you pick him because he is a beast. They definitely needed a corner because their corner came to Miami, and but CeeDee Lamb he'll make a difference because now it's gonna take pressure off of Amari Cooper, off of the running game, because now they're gonna have to be like, I don't know where they're going. They have too many weapons on offense, and Dallas is becoming one of the scary teams. And I hate to say it because I do not like Dallas, but they're coming up, and I'm just like, they're on a new level right now, and I like the CeeDee Lamb pick, but I feel like they They definitely got lucky with that one. He should have been gone to Oakland or one of these other teams that were where he was projected. He was projected to. I feel like I think it was CeeDee Lamb to Denver and Jerry Jeudy to Oakland, and that did not work out.
Yeah, Ruggs going first was the surprise for me as far as wide receivers. But my first reaction when CeeDee Lamb got drafted, I thought, no, they don't need a receiver. What is that pick? And then you realize they went best player available. You can't even fault them for getting a guy of CeeDee Lamb's talent. Even if they ship away Amari Cooper because they don't want to pay that money now, they have a perfect replacement ready to go. So can't fault them for that. Another big storyline is that not many Miami Hurricanes were taken. And that's a big deal because they get taken pretty high almost every year. I think this is the lowest the first Hurricane has been taken since like 2013 or something like that. What do you think happened? Why didn't the NFL teams value these Hurricanes players?
I feel like the Miami Hurricanes haven't had that big name since the early 2000s. And right now, with how the Hurricanes have been doing, obviously, in the college football level, they don't have as much talent, like I said, as was coming out back when Jeremy Shockey, McGahee, those types of players were coming out, Edgerrin James. And now it's like, if you don't, you still see the Hurricanes coming out in the draft, but you don't see them early on as you used to. So like Shaquille Quarterman, when he finally got off the board, it was like the 5th round, and I was like, that's insane. Like it took that long for a Miami Hurricane to come off the board. I just feel like the Miami Hurricanes need to get back to that level to where we were scared, like people were scared to play against us, and not just because of the area and because of how we acted on the field, but because of our talent.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is, what was it, 2 years ago, they looked solid. They had a really good team. But like you said, I guess they didn't have just that one guy that just stood out. And Quarterman played well, but apparently whatever it was, whether it was the combine or whether it was, how he played on the field, it just didn't entice a lot of teams. So I'm glad that they started going off the board eventually. I'm glad they didn't all go undrafted. But I will say that the one that I was hoping for Miami to take was DJ Dallas. I think that if Miami took him, I would have been super happy with it, but they ended up using that pick on Matt Breida instead, so I can't argue with that.
The pick that I liked with the Hurricanes was KJ Osborne. Like, he wasn't like an insane talent in Miami, but I feel like he's going to explode, especially in Minnesota with a quarterback like Kirk Cousins, who likes to just launch the ball all day long. And I know they got Justin Jefferson first.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Justin Jefferson first, but I feel like KJ Osborne is gonna explode with talent out there.
I agree. He looks solid. And so as we look forward toward the next season, when we might start seeing some Miami Hurricanes players on NFL fields, and also these other Miami Dolphins players on NFL fields, obviously we don't have any idea what it's going to look like. We're still under pandemic watch, and we don't know when training camp's going to begin, if there's going to be training camp, if the season's even going to start on time. How do you think this is playing out, just from what you've seen?
It's a sad day in this world when you don't have any sports to watch other than old highlights and looking forward to the Michael Jordan Last Dance on Sundays when you're not a Bulls fan. But it's getting to a point where you're like, will sports even come back until next year? Because they've been saying that in LA, they're like, they don't see concerts or sports being played until the year 2021. So it's like, and I was talking to some people and they're like, oh, but what does it matter? I was like, those are stadiums where some of the teams are going to be playing. So you can't take them out of the equation. Like, you have to find somewhere for them to play. And if all the other teams are using their stadiums, you can't just move teams around like it's like they're chess pieces. So if some teams or some counties, states, whatever, decide that they don't want to reopen, what's going to happen for the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, all these sports that depend on this as revenue and like.
They're saying that the NBA just made an announcement that teams can start opening their practice facilities in places that allow it, that are opening back up. But that's only a handful of states. I don't even think Florida has a clear statement. So I don't even know if Miami can get back into the practice facility right now. So, it'll be interesting to see. I'm still holding out hope that we get some sort of NBA playoffs, but it's looking less and less likely as the weeks go on. What are we on? Week 26 of this quarantine. It's getting annoying at this point. But at the end of the day, whenever there is Dolphins football again, we have hope. We have a quarterback, and the quarterback can stand to use some time. He can stand to spend more time rehabbing and getting back to normal. So I don't think it'll hurt him. But let's say hypothetically NFL starts on time. What do you think happens with Tua? Do you think he's starter week 1, week 8, redshirt the entire year?
Obviously, I say they'll throw him into a preseason game. I think that, why draft a quarterback that that you believe in, aside from the injuries? Obviously, if they tell you that he's healthy, why redshirt him? That's a college type thing. That's okay, you're a freshman. Hey, we got to sit you out because you got to sit behind the junior quarterback and learn and get used to this college level. But at the NFL level, you're a pro. You are ready to be in the NFL, and the doctors are saying you're good to play. We're gonna bench you anyways. If we want to win, why waste one of his contract years with him sitting on the bench when we can get to winning right away? Yes, Ryan Fitzpatrick can be there along the way, and we still have Josh Rosen. And although Josh Rosen doesn't play as much and hasn't played as much over his career, there's still stuff that he can learn from each of them. And there's only one way to learn how to play in the NFL, by playing in the NFL. You can't just sit out a year and then come in and be like, oh, so I watched Ryan Fitzpatrick get smashed by these guys. I know how to avoid them now. So I feel like he should play this year, whether it be week 1, maybe not week 1, maybe mid-season. We're 4-4. Hey, Tua, hey, come on, let's go. Lead us to the playoffs.
Yeah, I could see that. But if I'm the coaching staff, obviously I'm waiting until I get medical clearance. He's 1,000%. I'm not putting him out there if he's 98%. I'm not putting him out there if the doctors are he could play, but maybe you want to. No, I'm not putting him out there until they say that thing is healed and he is not under any additional risk of injury. And if I get that before the start of the season, sure, I'm throwing him in preseason games. I'd probably still sit him behind Fitzpatrick for the first couple games. We'll see how they go. Obviously, if Fitzpatrick gets hurt, you can throw him in there if you're comfortable. But I'd be perfectly fine letting him sit at least until the bye week if that's middle of the season. If we have playoff hopes, sure, throw him in there. Maybe he makes it work, or let him sit because now Fitzpatrick is getting us to the playoffs. If we're 0-8 or 2-6 or whatever it is, why waste the games? Let him put him at risk for injury when we have no aspirations anyway. So I could see the benefit of resting him, or not resting him, but redshirting him. It seems to work with Mahomes. You just give him a year to absorb everything, practice every day, and then year 2 comes around and he's throwing 50 touchdowns. That's an extreme example, but there's precedent to resting a quarterback.
What about Deshaun Watson? He comes in, two torn ACL, or was it 2 torn ACLs? Comes in, and immediately that's an injury risk in itself. And I feel like they took the risk and we got the reward immediately.
But which one of those 2 quarterbacks has a Super Bowl?
Well, Deshaun Watson. If he didn't blow it.
That's true. That's true. But Deshaun Watson has been put in a place where he had no offensive line, and that's part of the reason why the Texans overpaid for Laramie Tunsil, because they had no offensive line, and he gets beat up every week. So I think that the Dolphins know what they're doing. They're not trying to win a Super Bowl this year. They have a year to spare, getting everybody ready and up to speed. All right, guys. So that'll be our first episode in the books. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Looking into the future of the Miami Dolphins. It's an exciting time. And I hope you're there sticking with us as we go through and navigate making our first couple podcasts. And let us know what we can do to make it better. Thanks, guys.